All right, here we are. I'm going to welcome you all to Cobra's headquarters here in Carlsbad, California. We're in the Crow's Nest, which is Cobra's brand new fitting studio. I'm here with Jose Miraflor. Jose, how are you today?
Great, Brian. How are you, pal?
Hey, man, I'm super excited to be here because when I'm here, that means there's new product. And you know me and new product, I am like a kid in a candy store.
It's a fun day, isn't it?
It is amazing. So we're here hanging out. This place is really cool. Right to our side over here, we got the actual fitting area. There's a putting green. You name it, it's a golfer's heaven in this place. But no, it's super exciting, you guys. I'm glad to be out here. We've got a brand new line of woods for Cobra Golf in 2025, and there is a ton of exciting stuff in this lineup of woods. And I know every year Cobra's got fantastic woods. You guys have so much tech in these drivers, and this year you're pushing the limits again. And we're pretty cool to see multiple options. You're going to be able to fit just about every golfer out there with these drivers. But let's kind of start with where is the inspiration for Cobra drivers? When you look from, 2024 is a great year with dark speed, some really great drivers. Now we're up here with DS Adapt. What is kind of like the big focus when you're at Cobra Golf and you're kind of getting ready for the next generation of drivers? What kind of goes through the R&D mind, the minds of you guys like you, all the engineers? What's kind of the big focus?
Well, one, we're hoping that the year before is a good success because like this year's model, DS Adapt stands for Dark Speed Adapt.
Yep.
And we're hoping that Dark Speed did really well because we were starting this product way before Dark Speed even shipped. Like now, just so you know, we're already into 2027 identification of technologies and already starting the workup of 2027. 26 is pretty much baked, right? And we haven't even shipped 25 in the marketplace. So we're hoping with your help we do really well in the product line. But honestly, I mean, we're excited. Every year we try and come up with something new. We want to be known as an innovation leader in the business.
Yep.
So like the name says, Dark Speed Adapt. The Adapt is new, the Dark Speed is old. We kept the Dark Speed name because as you can see in front of you, the drivers here are still dark, they're still moody. There are some updates here for sure that we'll chat about. But the adaptive part, I think, which is going to be the cool thing, we're creating a driver for you this year that not only can be fit for you because there's 4 different drivers that will answer for 4 different types of golfers, maybe actually even 6, right? You and I have some inside knowledge. 6 different types of golfers, which we even speak to about your fit, that can choose between these drivers alone. And then we can take that driver that you fit into and tune it to the nth degree to make sure it fits your game to the point where you'll feel comfortable swinging harder at it because we've taken your miss hit and made it even tighter.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we allow you to swing freer, maybe gaining more distance because you're very comfortable with the driver, right?
Yep. And you're right. The dark speed look is very much there. I love that the color coding stayed the same. And when you look at dark, LS is still kind of the black stealthy look. X is blue. Max is red. And then we have a total new one here that has a white and silver kind of look.
Yep.
But like you said, the top's still super clean, super stealthy, matte black carbon. The kind of sinister, cool look of dark speed is still there.
We did move to, as you pointed out, to this new but old look that we have, right? To where the crown, you can actually see where the seam is, where we inlay it. This allows us to show off more carbon than you typically would when you blend it. So we like this look. We change it up every once in a while. It's just a designer's dream come true. You get to do whatever you want. We still have a lot of carbon fiber on the bottom side, and we're using a lot of titanium and in many cases, different types of weights on the exterior and interior of these fairways and drivers that help make them perfect for different people.
Yeah, and let's start with kind of the high level. I mean, we have 4 heads here, which I know if you're a fan of Cobra, you're realizing 4 is more than 3. And last year we had 3 dark speed heads.
Right.
This year we've got 4, and we'll get into that. We'll get into kind of what all 4 are. But just kind of in general, when you look at improvements for 2025 for these drivers here, what are kind of the main topics or the main features that you look at and say these are where we've really kind of pushed the envelope for the 2025 drivers?
Absolutely. So we always want to be known for having some of the fastest drivers in the marketplace, right? I think there's a cult following for some of our drivers that are really fast. So we start with speed, and speed comes with aerodynamics. So the LS over there by you is the most aerodynamic driver we've ever made. And we've been honing up on aerodynamics the last couple of years, and we've added a little bit of heel aerodynamics, which sounds to you guys, heel, what does that do? But if you think about the change in your direction from the top swing to your downswing, that initial start, the heel portion of the driver is in the atmosphere facing it, and we want to make sure that you can pick up speed right away, carrying it all the way down through the swing.
Yep.
We do progressive aero, so LS is the most aerodynamic, and as you approach the Max K and the Max D, it becomes lower CG instead of super aero. There is low CG in that, but that is more aerodynamically designed, right?
Yep.
Inside the heads, we have what we call adaptive weighting. So the two 9-degree heads that we carry in the Better Players products have those power bridges that we've been designing, right?
Yeah.
Push forward CG for speed, low for low spin. So if you're a guy who needs to control your trajectory, you want to probably play one of those two products. If you're an extreme speed person like yourself, you found out,
Yeah, right.
you can benefit from a great LS driver, right?
That's right.
And then if you need back weighting CG, the 10.5s in those, and these two drivers are CGs that are pushed a little bit back in the Better Player versions to help give you a little bit more spin, a little bit more launch, and a little bit more forgiveness, but not giving up on that speed.
Yep.
And then on these two guys, we're pushing the CGs further back or in the heel for this draw version so that we can cater it to the golfer who's looking for stability or for draw biased, right?
Yep.
So that's our take on adaptive weighting. And then finally, of course, there's still that hot face technology, which we introduced a couple of years ago, 15 different hot spots that we designed behind the face, all designed thin or a certain type of thickness to not only give you speed off the center, but high CT around the perimeter. So when you do miss it off center, you're still getting less distance loss. Let's say it that way. That's the right way to say it, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, the newest technology is this little thing, which you have one in front of you
I know,
there. How about
thing.
this, right? This, everyone, is our FutreFit33 dial. The Hosel is called a dial. And what we're doing with this is if you show us your miss, if you have one, we're going to show you how to dial in your game so that you'll be longer, straighter than ever before.
Yep.
This features 33 unique settings.
Yeah,
and it sounds like a lot.
I'm about to say, when I first heard about it, which I was fortunate to hear about it a few weeks ago, but now to see it in person, I was a little intimidated. And I'm a tinker guy. I love messing around. I love having settings.
You have proven yourself as a techie guy today.
I think I've proven that I love to be able to mess with clubs and tinker and change them and all that. And at first, I was a little intimidated by thinking, hey, 33 settings, is that maybe too many? And now, after kind of going through a fitting and seeing how those settings are utilized, it really is a lot more simple than you think. It really is. And we'll dive into this in just a little bit, but this is a super cool fitting tool that I think even if you're getting fit, it's pretty cool to see the changes that this makes.
Right.
And that, yes, it's got 33 settings, but you're probably not going to try all 33 in your fitting.
I hope
probably
not. You're going to be tired
Yeah,
if you try 33 settings.
Yeah, a couple swings of each. I mean, that's a lot. But it's definitely very cool and definitely interesting to see how it works in a real life setting, which I got to. And that was really cool. So yeah, we'll definitely dive deeper into this in just a minute. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about each one of these drivers and kind of what it does, who it's made for, and we'll start at the Golf WRX end, we'll call it, because this I know last year's Dark Speed was a big hit with the players who, like you said, kind of needed some of that launch and spin control, but still wanted a ton of ball speed. But this is the new DS Adapt LS. From the from its shape, it does remind you a little bit of the Dark Speed, but it's got some new stuff going to it. But tell us kind of the lowdown on the LS, kind of who it's for, and what are kind of the driving forces kind of behind what this does.
Yeah, I think many of your viewers, your readers know that LS stands for low spin.
Yep.
So if you need any type of control with your launch conditions, spin rate, while keeping up your speed, this is the right driver for you. Those of you who are hearing those correct words, your ears are peaking up already. Did he say low spin? Did he say launch control? That's neutral ball flight, fade bias, right? Those are what the people who are using this want to hear. It does still have the 3 tunable weights from standard or what we call neutral to toe bias, which gives you about 12 yards of fade.
Wow, that's a lot.
If you hook the ball, some of us do, that could help you, right? And then, of course, a back weighting, which makes this driver more hittable for more people. We're taking a tour driver and you push the weight to the back, it becomes more stable, a little bit more lift, a little bit more spin, making that very playable driver for more people than just, I would say, just tour people, right? And it is a smaller head than last year. It's only 445 cc's. What do you take on the new size and look of it?
I tell you what, so when I first saw it, we were up in the conference room, we were taking a look, and it was handed to me with a shaft, kind of sole up, and I said, ooh, that's pretty small. That's kind of compact. And then as soon as I flipped it over and kind of set it down, it did just kind of remind me a little bit of dark speed. It doesn't look as demanding as you thought. And to be honest, the kind of the way the shaping is in the back, where it's a little less stretched,
less triangular,
it does look really good. I think the better player who's very particular about the look of their driver will set this down and feel very comfortable with how this looks, and it'll suit their eye very well.
I think anybody who's very particular about their tour type of shape, or any type of smaller shape, they're really going to enjoy this look. Shaped by Tom Osavsky, one of the best shapers that's been in the business for a long time, right? He uses myself and Doug Roberts. We all chime in on shaping together. Even Mike Yagley, the four of us, Mike Yagley, Doug Roberts, Tom Osavsky, and I are the four we call horsemen, or the four, what do you call the, not the people that are bad, the good people, the Invincibles, Incredibles, whatever.
Yeah, but
the four people that put the superheroes that come together and bring all that we know from all of our different perspectives on clubs that we've been around, right? And look at the future. And this is one of the things we worked on together, and we're really happy with the way it turned out.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you said about this driver too is that it is definitely playable. You know, I mean, I was just kind of getting, went through my fitting, got to hit all these heads, and I kind of was like, when I walked into it, I said, well, I'm an X or K guy, that's just my game, and to put this down and just say, yeah, I'll hit it, and then see the type of performance it has was really quite interesting. And honestly, I'm a guy who needs a little help. I don't hit it dead straight every time, and to see that the mishits were as good as they were with this was very surprising. Now, because I didn't think they were going to be that good.
Here's a disclaimer. All results vary from golfer to golfer, but why don't we tell everybody what made you choose this driver over the X or the K driver, because you were really interested in these two.
Oh yeah, and honestly, I hit X really well, and I hit K well. It all came down to I was almost 4 miles an hour faster in ball speed with the LS compared to the other two. And the other two were good.
Yeah, they were.
And the other thing too was what I was saying about playability is that the misses I had were much tighter in terms of dispersion than I thought they would. I thought when I missed it with this, it was going to be way right, way left.
A toe hit typically can get really volatile, right?
Yeah, that's
not enough spin, not enough carry, and more movement right to left than we care to have. And for you, that didn't really happen, did it?
It held on to spin on those misses where I did draw it. But the other thing too is when I did hit it a little bit to the right, the spin didn't jump up and go, and the ball didn't fly up in the air and just fall down.
So there's spin consistency there that we try and build into this. Not something we talk about all the time, but we really try and work on our bulge and roll, our dual roll and our tri-bulge system. We try and work on that to make sure not just when it hits off center it corrects, but it corrects well. Right? Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, the moral of the story I think is, one, when you go in to get fit, be open-minded to any of these that your fitter may hand you, because you don't know. Like I said, I was kind of going, I'll hit it and we'll see how it goes. And it'll be interesting. I'll get to at least feel it, and then was extremely shocked by the outcome.
And I was telling you today that one of my guys who works for me, his club head speed is 119, and he thought for sure he would be an X.
Yeah.
And he thought X only because he's challenged with launch, but he's got a lot of speed, right? He ends up in the K driver. Took it out this weekend, first time out 2 days in a row, just murdered the driver, called me up and said, hey, I'm in this driver for good. Can I play it in your member guest next week? I'm like, hey, it's on the conforming list, but I guess they can't kick us out.
And I was saying also in club head speed, I'm nowhere near 119. And as I've gotten older, I've unfortunately lost some of that speed I had. But I do have to say, I was in the 104, 105 range again with this.
Easily.
And I hadn't seen that number on a launch monitor in a while. I'd been seeing the 101s, 102s.
Fountain of youth.
Every once in a while I saw 103 when I really felt frisky in the warm weather. But yeah, I was consistently seeing a little bit higher club head speed with this than I'd seen all year.
That's great.
And it really carried across all of them. But that one I really did notice it. So you mentioned the X, and let's get into that one next. This is kind of, I like to call it kind of the bread and butter driver. This is the one that I think you'll probably see guys on tour play, extremely accomplished players. yet you'll probably go out on the weekends and your buddy who's a 15 handicap or whatever is probably going to have this in the bag. And this, like its brother there, has some movable weights, but give us kind of a load on the X. What's kind of new with this, and what kind of golfer is this
We
fitting?
call it the X because it is the cross-section of speed and forgiveness.
Yep.
It's our if somebody said which one's your standard driver, I guess you would say it's the X, right?
Yeah.
You have a tour head, 10K head, a draw head. So this is the standard head. Great driver for a lot of people. We have tour players, to your point, trying this head right now, trying to work their way into it. There's a front weight in it for lower spin and more speed. You've got a back weight in it so that you can keep the weight in the back and get a little bit more launch, a little bit more forgiveness, and maybe a little bit more spin if you need that.
Yeah.
But in itself, it is a great driver. If you carry speed in your game, between the LS and X is going to be a driver for you easily.
Yeah. And this one here, I mean, you look at, again, the same thing. You set it down and, you look at kind of the shaping of it compared to last year's Dark Speed. And again, not compact, but a little just slightly different shaping that maybe makes it look a little less stretched out from heel to back. And that was,
I would call a little bit cleaner look.
Yep.
Again, not so triangular. When you make a family, you kind of try and force them to look like a family. And since the tour head is not so triangular, guess what? Not as stretched out as much, right? We like the looks of it. The blue stands for medium ball flight versus black for low ball flight. And, should speak to a golfer who's walking up to in the rack. Go ahead and try it and make sure you change the weight position so you can get a feel for the different forgiveness versus speed in there and decide for yourself if it works for you.
And you said again, too, if you look at this one, the 9 and the 10.5 degree heads built a little differently. And I think it makes perfect sense because the player who would fit into more the 9 degree, the lower loft head, kind of needs a slightly different launch parameter than the player looking at the 10.5 head. So, if you're a player who thinks, I have to be LS, to your point, you could be a 9 degree X head.
You could be.
Because the weighting in here is a little bit different than the 10.5, where you may find a little bit of speed advantage here as maybe opposed to X, or maybe a little straighter ball flight, whatever.
To your point, 9 degree heads in both of these lines feature the power bridge system. The 10.5s don't. So we're allowed to take that power bridge weight, move it to the back a little bit to make it fly a little higher, to make it a little more forgiving. So if you hit the 9 degree in this set to 10.5 and this 10.5 right here together, they would not fly the same. So you got to decide for yourself, do I need lower spin? Choose the 9s. Or choose an LS. Or if you want higher spin or need higher launch or more forgiveness, use the 10.5s in both models because they are set up slightly differently.
And I think that's just further reinforcing also kind of the 2025 Cobra line of fitting. You're giving fitters a ton of tools to fit one of these drivers into somebody's swing and really get it dialed in to, I don't care how picky you are about how you need to, you're going to have a driver head that, like you said, you can, just an X alone, the 2 different lofts, how you can play and fit a different person into that. So that's pretty exciting. And I think golfers, especially who, know the benefits of fitting, to now see that you have even more options. It really gives you, that reason to get in there and get fit. So X, like you said, kind of the core, the main driver in a sense. And now we move to kind of the new guy. We didn't have a silver or a color or white color last year, but this year we do, and it is basically, I know last year we kind of saw a little bit of the term 10K come out, and we're now seeing it here. And this is the DS Adapt Max K, so the 10K driver. Extreme high OMY. But who is this for? What are we looking at with the 10K here?
We've been developing forgiving drivers for a long time, right? I think we had the first ever 0 CGNA driver with 5,000 MOI points. So that was a milestone. First, what we called that was a unicorn back in the day. Now another unicorn is the race to 10K. A couple drivers came out with it last year. Ours, we've been working on it for a few years and we're ready to put it out. And this speaks to the addition of both MOIY, which is heel to toe resistance to twisting, and MOIX, which is the resistance of twisting top down. When you add those numbers both up, if they add up to over 10K, you have a pretty stable driver. And that's what we designed this one for. Now, we also know the pitfalls of designing a 10K driver can be when you push the CG so far away from the hosel to make it more forgiving, the driver's harder to square, right bias driver. When you push the CG so far back, there's a lot of dynamic lofting on it, you get a spinnier driver. We've negated both of those phenomenons in our design of this head. Super stable, straight bias, low spinning, and we're eager to get this to the marketplace because we think actually this might be, even though this is the standard driver, this driver, the K, might be the highest percentage of the 4.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people are surprised by it. We've had so many people come by already, retailers, tour staffers that want to talk to us about coming on staff. I've been to a couple sales meetings, a couple media launches. I presented to over 1,000 fitters. And when we put people through the fits, it's surprising how many end up in this head when they don't think they're going to be in this head.
Yeah.
It's surprising how many people end up in that head that don't think they're going to be on that head.
I thought I was going to be here.
So it's always like you said, keep an open mind
Yep.
about which driver you try, and just let the numbers dictate for you what's going to be best for you, right?
Yep. And the other nice thing too is like you said, as you kind of design a family, the family kind of all looks similar, fits the same. When you set this down, there's not a whole lot of difference between this and X and Max. When you kind of look at it, it's a little longer heel to toe, but I mean, unless you're really looking for it, you're probably not going to notice a whole lot there. But it's also something where you're going to get all that stability, all that forgiveness, without having a driver that looks real funky.
Right.
You know, you'll be able to set this down and it looks like a great driver. And I think packing that much tech into something that looks pretty traditional had to be a little bit of a challenge.
Well, we know clean and simple is very in.
Yep.
So that was number one thing we wanted to come out with. And 2, all the insides need to be ripped out and redone so we can design a 10K head. So last year, as you remember, we had a Max driver. It was a third driver, and it had both the back weight and the heel weight. We simply took that heel weight out, which is about 9.5 grams, and elongated this driver, as you spoke to, and pushed all that weight into the back parent's metal area, and we were able to come up with this 10K driver that's super stable.
Yeah.
Gave up a little bit of tunability, but instead we just came out, if you need a draw driver, that's what this next driver is all about. It's made to draw.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, Max Forgiveness, this is a great looking driver. I mean, the other thing too, sound and feel. I mean, they all sound and feel really good.
Weren't you surprised at how soft that one still sounds, even though you think big heads that are thinner walls are going to be tingy?
Yep.
Our engineers are so good at using frequency tuning. Like when we try it out on FEA, finite elements analysis, we are able to look at what the prediction of the sound will be. Then we go ahead and tool it up and make sure it sounds that way. And whenever we need to make a change, we make a change because for us, sound is something we just won't scrimp on, right?
Yeah.
It has to sound good.
There's also people who go out there, and that's a big part of buying a driver. If they go out and they walk out into the driving range and they hit a ball and it sounds like banging a ball of a trash can, they're not going to buy it.
Oh, yeah, and range balls are louder than better player balls, right? So most of the time when you try this on a driving range, it's going to be a loud golf ball.
Maybe the worst it'll ever sound is out there. But it's true. I mean, sound and feel are a big thing with clubs. And you not only do you have to like the look and the performance, but you got to like a little bit of the sound and feel. But very, very cool to see this added to the lineup and to have something there for those players looking for, maximum kind of stability and forgiveness. And then last but not least, the very famous Max. And the Max D is now really a draw driver. And I know the previous Maxes have been really great drivers. I think people kind of forget that they had those 2 movable weights and you could set them up fairly neutral and they were easy to hit. But this one here now is really built for that player who wants to take the right side out of it or reduce that slice.
Right.
And there's a lot of us out there. Let's be honest.
Yeah, let's face it. There's a lot of people out there that struggle with the slice.
Yep.
Or would like to get rid of their fade. Maybe it's just a small fade. Maybe they want to hit a draw for the first time. Well, this driver might be able to be that driver for them.
Yeah.
People say, well, draw drivers are shorter. This one's not shorter.
No.
It is pretty long. It's very forgiving. Even though the back weights move to the heel, it's still about 5,000 MOI points, so very stable still. But what it has done is moved all the weight really close to the hosel. So indirectly, the golfer may not know it, but we're helping them release the club face, which is going to get straighter ball flights or reduce their slice. And if you need more fix than that, we have the FutreFit system that can give you 2 degrees more upright to be able to make that thing do a left turn and come back and hit them in the butt. Yeah. That's how much left it's going to have in it.
Well, also too, like I think when people say Max D, and they always have this negative connotation of, oh, it's just going to go way left, whatever. But there's some players that just the feel of having that weight in the hosel, like you said, allows them to kind of turn it over. And there's players who even maybe hit a little bit of a draw who may try this and find that they can actually swing it pretty fast and hit it pretty far.
We've had more than one tour player say, is it okay to play this? We're like, yeah, of course. If you want to play a draw driver, you can absolutely play it because they want to hit a draw. We've had a couple single-digit handicappers come in, and I've sit him in the hit bay, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Do me a favor. Just try this driver. I know it's not your favorite. Don't look. Just hit. And when they hit it and they hit a draw, and it's just as long or even longer than before because you're taking the extra spin away, if you will. They're like, what is this? I'm like, it's our draw driver.
It's our draw, exactly.
And they're not scared. I mean, who cares?
But that's the other thing, too, is that, again, when you go and you talk about fitting, something like this, if you're open-minded and willing to try what your fitter is willing to hit, you could find some things that really perform well for your swing that you didn't think ever would. And I think, just because you don't slice it 2 fairways over doesn't mean that this may not work really well for you. But it is kind of nice to see that this is back because as much as, like we said, we hate to admit it, a lot of us do slice it. And it's okay. That's part of golf. It's just the way it is. It's part of golf. So to have something that is back to being kind of dedicated, built for that player to kind of help with that is kind of nice. So having that ability. And, but yeah, so we've got 4 Cobra DS Adapt drivers, all built, kind of for specific reasons. But if you walk into your fitter, and between these 4, you're going to find one that works. That's for sure. And part of that is going to be this, which let's get into it now. We'll get in kind of deeper into the weeds. If you want to hit the slide, we'll bring up the chart.
So we talked about the fastest. Now we're going to talk about the most fittable drivers, right?
Yeah.
So each one of these drivers can be totally tuned to match your game. If you look at this mandala, if you will, this dial behind us, all you need to do is point down this range where your ball flies, and we can straighten out your ball flight using this FutreFit33 dial. It's that simple. You went through it today.
I did.
So when you first started hitting, why don't you take everybody through where you went?
So I was actually, if you, and the way you explained it, I think was really easy, where you look at the ball flight. And most of the time, I'm kind of like a D2 guy, a C2, maybe a D3. I kind of hit low and left.
A little bit left.
Today, you bring your swing. I was hitting more balls up near the B6, A7 area, which is kind of upper right. And we basically found that for my driver, B1 was kind of the spot. So we kind of worked out of that right quadrant of where the balls were going and kind of went over to the left side and said, how can we use those settings to straighten out that ball? And we went through, tried a few different ones, and ended up with the LS on B1, which added a little bit of left, not too much, just a little bit, but it still kept the height. Because I'm not a high ball hitter, so I need to kind of hit it high. And that B1 ended up being perfect. And you look at it and go, well, it's not that far from the standard.
Does it really make a difference? You tell them.
So it wasn't even that. I think it was the first driver I hit. We went up in lie 1 degree, and we went down in loft 1 degree, just to kind of dial some things in to see where we were going. And when we looked at the numbers from that setting on the driver, it was exactly the lie angle where the club came in was 1 degree up, and the loft was 1 degree lower. It was exact. It was exact to what we set. The Hosel too. It came out to that exact number.
Yeah, so, I think the important part, though, I think we need to tell the viewers is you don't have to hit all 33 settings. No. You're going to be very tired if you do.
You can.
How many settings did you hit today?
Oh, I think we went through, if you went through kind of all the drivers, we maybe went 2 settings on each, really. Maybe 3 on the LS because we kind of found that to be the one.
And you were just fine-tuning,
And we were fine-tuning. I think the rest of them we tried 2, maybe 3. So we didn't need to go, if you're somebody hitting up at B6, you're not going to need to try H4. That's probably not going to eliminate
you're going to eliminate 29 to 30 settings out of 33.
Exactly.
Right? So the way it works, everyone, is you hit the driver in neutral, and wherever it flies, you just both have, you and the fitter agree on, then you make the change. You're probably only going to try 2 of those settings. And then if that's not the driver for you, you want to try the next driver next to it, you do the same thing. 4 settings probably you try, and then you're going to pick ahead, and then you might do a couple fine tunes, but it didn't take that long to get you fitted.
Well, exactly. And I kind of thought, oh man, like how are we going to hit try 1 setting, then the next, and then the next. and it doesn't work like that. You don't need to, because once you make that first change, you're going to see, like you said, did that fix it, or do we need to make maybe 1 more tweak? And really, if you toss in, we tweaked the Hosel and then said, oh, well, let's move the weight around. And then, it really wasn't that many changes. Like you said,
much at all.
When we got LS dialed in, which is the one I got fit into, I think we did maybe 3 hosel changes, and we changed the weights.
Right.
So 4 total.
Yeah.
And if you count, 4 swings with that?
That's a standard fitting, though.
Exactly. That's 16 swings.
So let me ask you this. Let's see how much you learned today. What about, you had a great fitter.
Yep.
Andrew Lester's
Andrew's phenomenal.
fitter. He's phenomenal, right? Now, supposing Andrew's not around and it's just you, what did you learn today that you can do with this driver to really fit yourself? Say you have a bunch of qualified people here watching us that are saying, I'm going to want to do this myself. How can I do it? How do I understand all 33 settings and where they go? What would you tell them you would do?
Well, the first thing, the easiest thing would be the app.
Right.
Which you can go onto, the driver itself. You don't have to worry about Googling it or whatever. You can literally just the QR code's right on the driver. So you just take your phone, you can be out on the range, boom, look it up, take your wrench, change whatever setting you want. And the other thing is, if you don't have your phone, you can always go right to the actual sleeve, and you guys went through and marked off what each setting pretty much does. So if you go, like you said, A1 is standard, and when you're in A1, you can kind of look at it, and it has 0 and 0 for loft, and the lie is +1 -1,
which to be
equals
0 0, right?
I'm not a math major,
neutral.
but I think I'm good. But then if you make a change and you go to something like,
what was your B1? Let's take them through what your B1 was.
So then you go to B1, and B1 is going to be plus 0.7 degrees of loft, so almost 1 degree of loft. And when you look at lie, it's a +1 and a -0.7. So it's basically plus about a quarter.
0.3,
yeah, or 0.3 up. So a little bit
much
upright,
at all,
not
right?
much, but I've got some loft, which is usually what I need.
Right.
So, and the other thing is it's right on here. So if you're on the range and you go, oh man, I didn't bring my phone, or it's in my bag or whatever, you can pull this out, make the change, and be right there.
Look at you.
It's really nice.
You're now a qualified master fitter for the FutreFit33. It really is that simple, right? You can either go through the QR code system, which, by the way, I showed you to, right, has a blank mandala.
Yeah.
All you need to do is tap where your normal ball flight goes, and it'll suggest just 3 settings for you to try. Just 3.
Yeah.
Don't overdo it. Try those settings, see how that does, and then move from there. Do you need to go more up, more down, more left, and more right? You can just make subtle moves, and you will find a fit pretty darn quickly.
Yeah.
And this was very important for us. You can't do 4x more than what we did last year in fitting settings, or double amount than the next competitor and say this is going to be easy. We don't want to confuse the golfers out there. We want them to buy in, because this system also allows you to do this to your fairway and to your hybrid. And the big thing on the hybrid that I'm chatting about with everybody is, you know how when you hit your iron and your iron may be a fade, but the moment you hit a hybrid, it is a right to lefter. But now you can change the hybrid setting so it goes flatter and line angle to kind of duplicate your iron ball flight. You can really now gap your long game in a smart way to make the ball flights match.
Yeah, and then also too, if you look on here, there's a lot of settings that, while there's a lot of drivers in the marketplace that have a lot of adjustments that you can do in their hosels, there's some settings here that you just cannot do with any other driver.
Right.
There just isn't. There's or maybe there might, I won't say never, but there's very few drivers that you can independently say, I want to keep the loft the same and just make it flat, or just make it upright, or just make it without manipulating something else.
That's a great point. This is the first one where you actually can independently adjust loft or lie independently. They're not They're not coexisting, right? They can be done independently. And I think the other one that's good to remember is that this system can help you, anybody, whether you're righty, lefty, it doesn't matter. You're going to be able to dial in your game. In fact, we joke and say, if you can't use these drivers and this system to dial in your game, pickleball is getting really popular in a bunch of places, and I love pickleball, but I'd rather play golf. And I think this really next year can really help some people take their game to another level, which is what we're looking to do, right?
And I think you guys said it can help anybody from a beginner golfer who, as you kind of pointed out, would maybe use some of the extreme outside numbers. But if you're an extremely skilled player, somebody who plays competitive tournament golf, maybe just those little tweaks where you're looking for just a
like
little.
This was a small tweak.
Yeah,
it's very valuable.
I thought I was going to need a bigger one. I thought I was going to need to be more on the outside. But yeah, if some of those players who maybe look at it and go, well, I don't need to go 2 degrees there. I'd like to just go 1.
Right.
Well, you can.
Right.
And this will let you kind of, and then, like you said, independently. So if it's somebody who says, well, I just want the lie, or I just want the loft, or whatever, you can just go switch that one little piece, and maybe that's what you needed to get that driver perfect.
You know, our competitors, when you add up their fitting points that they have, the different settings, there's 44 total. There's 33 in this tiny little Hosel, which is really great. And what's great about ours is it has a true neutral, and you can go in any direction, because that's something you couldn't do in the others. The neutral is typically the only one that's center, and from there you're going either more draw bias or more fade bias. This is one that's actually true neutral, and you can go in any direction you want. So we're really excited about this, and I'm glad that you got a chance to go through it, because seeing is believing.
Definitely.
It's not that hard, and it does really work. You can see it on TrackMan, you'll see it on GC Quad, you'll see it in the air flying, even better, right? So you don't have to have one of those things to do the adjustments and see if it works for you either.
And I mean, just like a vain thing, when you look at how small this is, it isn't huge, it's not bulky. You're not going to look at the driver and say, oh, all I see is the Hosel. It really is slim and compact, and it's not much bigger than the previous Modify adapter. It really
about
isn't.
a half a gram heavier than before, and we like to call it aerodynamic in its design. Sleek and small.
It's definitely. I mean, it was much sleeker than I thought. When I saw the little photos before I got here, I thought it was going to be a little bigger, but it definitely is not. So this is going to be pretty exciting for people to go work with their fitter and get dialed in to the nth degree of finding that. So that's drivers. I know we kind of took a while there to go over them all, but I think it needed to be done. And then we also have the matching fairway woods. So if going line here, and I know there's not 4, there's only 3, but we have the LS, the X, and the Max back again. But brand new fairway woods. Some updates here as well. Definitely some updated shaping, but we've got some new tech as well. What's kind of the high level of the fairway woods? What's kind of new for 25?
Sharing the same type of tech as the driver. Clearly, we don't need aerodynamics. They're already small, so they're very aero. But the adaptive weighting inside, whether you're talking about tungsten weights in this titanium fairway, a power bridge in this fairway, or in this case, all the weight moved to the back for this fairway, those are inside weighting pieces that we do to adjust and make a fairway wood for different golfers. We still have the hot face technology behind all of these, but really the big thing is about the shaping and the things we've done. You're great at shaping, we found out today. Why don't you tell people what you thought about the new LS titanium fairway shape?
Yeah, so it's definitely, I mean, the first thing I noticed was, one, still got that clean look that Dark Speed had, but definitely a little bit more compact. It definitely shorter from face to back, a little more rounded, not quite as triangular, but a very compact and very kind of tour player look, very clean. I think, again, if you're a player who's very picky about, and I know fairway woods, even more so than drivers, fairway woods are a very personal club.
Well, hard to fit.
Yeah.
It's ball sitting on the ground. This is the lowest lofted club in your bag. You're going to try and hit a ball off the ground. So can you get it up in the air? Can't you get it up in the air? Do you hit it straight? Do you not? There's a lot there to figure out, because you're actually striking downward on this. So why don't you take everybody through what you ended up with?
So this is yet again, I walked into it, and as you know, if you've ever heard any of my podcasts, 3 woods for me, especially off the deck, are just a struggle. They just really are. And I found a little bit of success now moving that and you guys are doing it now, the higher lofted 3 wood. 15 degrees is great. For most players. The players like myself who don't quite hit it high enough, the 16 or 16.5 is a much better option. And again, I kind of said, hey, I'm going to be an X guy. That's just what it is. That probably launched a little higher. And I hit it good. I actually hit it pretty well.
I saw your numbers.
It wasn't quite long enough to fit behind the driver. It kind of left some gapping. It was kind of running into where my 7 wood was going to go. So we said, well, let's try LS. And I kind of said, I'm usually not an LS guy, but let's give it a go. And yeah, the LS Titanium, super hot. Definitely a little bit longer, but for 2 reasons. It wasn't just that, I mean, the face is definitely hot. It goes far. It did spin a little bit less.
It is titanium.
And I was able to find that distance I was looking for with the LS compared to the X. And the other part of it is I was a little intimidated. When I first set it down, I kind of said, size-wise, it's a little small, but is it going to be forgiving enough? And after hitting some shots and hitting a couple, low ones on the face, down near the heel, the ball actually went straighter and further than I thought. So again, packing a ton of tech into this head, and it isn't just for the Ricky Fowlers of the world. This is something that a guy who kind of fluctuates on that single-digit handicap can still play.
Sure.
And I can get it up in the air. It goes a long way. It doesn't overspin. And it sounds and feels great.
Oh, Ricky doesn't even play that fairway wood. You know why?
But say, yeah, so
it just goes too far for him. He says, I needed a number. The X is the perfect number. This LS is too far.
Yeah.
So, hey, great to have that problem. I've never had that problem. I try and hit a fairway wood as far as I can go. I mean, I'm at the point in my age where I'm trying to hit the longest par fours with a 3-wood if I need to, playing Toy Pine South or something like that, right? Or maybe even a par 5 and 2 if I get that lucky. But, I mean, you just got to pick what's right for you.
That's right.
I think you did it the right way. You found one that flew the right way. And then sounded the right way. They all sound pretty good.
Sound good.
But if you're somebody who's looking to get the ball up in the air, the other side of the coin is this Max Fairway wood, which is the shallowest face out of all of them. It's made to get the ball airborne. This is the one that we position towards everybody who's looking for a little bit of stability and a lot of lift. This is the one.
Yep.
But by far the standard fairway wood, and we do a lot of these on tour. Many people don't know this, but we typically have 18 to 20 plus fairway woods in play a week.
Yep.
We don't pay that many players to play our fairways. They're not on our staff. But we have such a good following from our fairways. Ben on tour has an easy job with these fairways to get them in play, and we're happy about that. That means we're doing a good job of design in here. Yeah,
we've seen some what's in the bag photos of, like you said, some Cobra
Can't name
fairways.
them.
Yeah, but I said we can't say who it is. But we've seen some fairway woods in some other bags that aren't just Cobra staff players. So we've got the LS, which is, again, this year
low
titanium.
Spin. Yep, titanium.
So titanium face on that one, low spin, adjustable weights on the sole. We get the adjustable hosel, tons of fitting options in this one here.
It's just a shrunk down version of the LS driver. That's all it is, right? So it's got 3 weights. It's got the hosel system. It's got everything that the driver has, just shrunk down to be a fairway wood, which is great. Great off the tee club too. If you struggle with the driver and you need a fairway wood to hit off the tee, this is a nice deep face fairway wood you can hit off the tee.
And then that's one thing for me. Like my 3-wood is pretty much 80% of the time a tee club.
Not anymore.
And it's one of those where not exactly.
Not anymore.
Now I can hit it off the
you
deck.
have a new honeymoon phase going with another driver.
I got. But no, this thing here. I mean, exactly for that player looking for a little bit of spin control as well. It offers that. And honestly, it is a little more compact, but you don't have to be scared of it. I was, and after hitting it, realized that was just it was all up here. So the LS, and then like you said, the X, kind of the core model again here. Kind of we'll see them on tour. We'll see them in bags of probably every handicap range out there. After that, so I mean, again, movable weight in the back, adjustable hosel. You're going to be able to kind of fit this into just about everybody's bag. And then you said if you're looking for extra height, extra forgiveness, you have the Max T as well.
We made a new 9-wood in this Max fairway too. So if anybody's looking to play a 9-wood, 7-wood in this one, only a 5-wood into that one. But there's 2 3-woods and a 5-wood. And by the way, you can adjust up 2 degrees too. So you can get whatever you need out of these
You
woods.
can take the 14.5 and get it down to what, 12.5?
12.5.
So
if you're that guy,
I
don't know very many of those guys, but if you're that guy, you can do it.
I'm just happy to see the high launch 3-wood because in all these, it's nice to see that because again, I'm a player who needs a little bit of height, and to have those options, it's really great. But yeah, the fairway line matches really well with the driver line, and performance is really, really solid. So yeah, again, shocked that I'm somehow an LS guy, but hey, it works, and that's what I needed.
Bragging rights are in your corner.
Right. So this is the brand new DS Adapt line from Cobra for 2025. I think it's excellent. Definitely go see your fitter, get fit, get dialed in. They're going to really be able to get you in the best position with all the options that all these drivers and even fairways and hybrids offer with all this new tech. So go check them out. Jose, thanks, man. I appreciate you breaking down everything.
It's my pleasure.
A whole lot of fun.
Thanks for coming to visit.
Yeah, this has been a blast. So this is all the brand new 25 Cobra stuff. Check it out, and thanks for listening.